just, yeah. Uh,
No pressure.
but just it is, first of all, this is going to be a very different talk in a very different team because it this is more of a day in the life in our platform team. It's a very dynamic team, and as Joanna said, it's been going since the beginning. Uh, we we don't have a set goal. We don't have a set project. We we have things we tinker with and things we're fixing. And when other teams come to us, try to help them smooth things out on the back end of their applications. Currently, we are working a bit trying to smooth out the back end to the volunteer app to not only make it smoother and fancier, but cheaper to run. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we need to be able to have sustainable solutions. See, it's unfortunately because of the nature of the team, we do have our volunteers too. Some of them have day jobs that they have very pressing 24-hour day roles, and they can join us today. So I mean, we have the two knowledge bases that are absolute workhorses is David Carboni and Bradley Ledbetter. Never said his name out loud, but I think most of you have met David and Brad, and they pop in all the projects. So David has a startup right now, and Brad works for AWS. So they come in and do mentor everybody. I think Pamela comes to with us, David, Vanessa. They can attest to the patience and the very good explanations that the guys give us. And as I always get around, I'm the least technical person in the team. I know enough to be dangerous. So that it's uh, what we're currently working on is uh, a CDK to build the backend of applications in AWS, especially in mobile apps at the moment, and that then will get moved on onto web apps, and there we'll get to the next step after that. But the idea behind this is for us to be able to effectively, at the click of a mouse, have a standardized solution for the backend for an application, something that the front end developers can just code on top of. And then we have unified support in the SDA. And this was an interesting way we got there because we were discussing on what kind of project can we do to fill our time in between when other projects come and ask us for help. Because you kind of need to have a background project you're working on while in between calls for help. If not, it's just a lot of me talking about e-commerce and David building sites. So it came through that we have this idea to standardize, and the best way to practice on it is to use our volunteer app as a practical example on how this could be working. And that is what at the moment we're working on. Where I think it's Vanessa and Pamela, David, do you guys want to say a bit of what we're doing with that at the moment? Or if you don't want to be in the spot, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I don't think I've been long enough to talk about it really. So.
I don't think I know enough to talk about it. But I know about Shopify websites now, thanks to Michael.
Yeah, so it's a lot of, so our conversations are very varied, different topics. And at the end of the day, we do get on with the project, get on with the tasks. So we try to make it as an exchange of information for everybody so that everybody can pick up new skills and new talents because we're all about upskilling everybody. And as I said, we're very thankful to having David and Brad that come in with that proper workhorse of knowledge on how AWS works in the back end and the best way to optimize it, and both optimize it for speed and for cost. So it has been eye-opening. And since I always work better in interactive sessions instead of talking at cameras. Anybody have questions or want to know more about anything that we said? Apparently not. We're very quiet now. I'm gonna pick on Brian because he's quiet. Oh no, Chris unmuted himself.
I was going to
We're pretty-
ask why Shopify?
Why
not
Shopify?
a bit? Why not Odoo? Because there was time spent on that. Why Shopify? What's the rationale? What's the thinking?
Well, that when I say Shopify, this is what they have done for their own personal sites. But the reasoning behind Shopify effectively is because it's a market leader, and it's the most widely used ecosystem for e-commerce at the moment, and it's a plug-and-play solution. There's no need to reinvent the wheel or anything there, and I think David, you built a drop shipping site in a weekend, didn't you?
3 days, yeah, it was up and running.
Have you done
Yeah.
it then?
It's really, really easy. I need more products on there, but yeah, to get it up and
I was about
running,
to say, what are you shipping, David?
just like gifts and bits and bobs, and wallets and things. It's all shop
I
fit.
need to go and check it. My website is finally live, so thanks,
Oh, good.
Michael.
At one point, Michael was selling STA branded merchandise. So if anybody wants some merch,
Yep.
Michael's your man.
Michael is the person, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's because also, Chris, going back to our Odoo days, is commercial Odoo is expensive. I mean, they've come down on the pricing significantly now, and now it's, if you're going to do a one user system, it is Shopify level prices, and you get the full ERP. So for those of you that don't know, Odoo is a full ERP. Everything you could ever expect or need to run a business of any scale, Odoo will do it. I mean, and we're talking about Toyota uses Odoo for their finance, Airbus uses Odoo for their procurement. And yeah, I mean, Jack in the Box uses Odoo if you're familiar with the chain. It's one of the biggest ERPs we've never heard of. They're behind a lot of the products. Now, they have their enterprise version, and they have their what they call their community version. Community version is open source. Now, I think this team was, for the better part of 2 years, was the Odoo backend team, because it was taking a legacy open source platform, because Odoo effectively built upon itself year after year after year. And the only way we could get Odoo to be commercially feasible to run is to get it serverless, but the architecture in Odoo wouldn't let us do it. So I think at the moment, the best we've gotten is Odoo to run at £60 a month on AWS. So that's great if you have a lot of users, but for one-off sites, it's very expensive. What we did manage to do is we managed to tweak Odoo to make it multi-tenanted. And that is what we're using for our community council website solution. So all the community council websites that are hosted on the STA run on Odoo. So even though it's a full-on ERP, we're only using the website side. But we have managed to segregate all the data between all the sites. So theoretically, we can just spin one up in seconds. And it's all effectively one company with multiple sites as opposed to multiple standalone sites, if that makes any sense. I think we were working on Tampon Taxi, right, Chris? Yeah. So that was the,
Was it? No, wasn't that? It was some other. I can't remember now. So long ago.
I know, it's different life.
Was it
You might
different?
need to explain what Tampon Taxi is, though.
Yeah. So we did a site called Tampon Taxi for Perth and Kinross Council. And that was right around the time that the government. Sorry?
Play with all these. If you can just do a whole lot of extra, then 12. Ow, let me try this on you. What is this called? Normal punch? Okay, hold on.
So, yeah, sorry about that, guys. So in this was around the time that they passed a law where all period products were meant to be free of charge, freely available. So this was a online marketplace effectively for Worthington Ross, where people could go in and place orders semi-anonymously, and they would deliver on the community. So we built effectively an e-commerce store with Odoo as the back end, but it was an e-commerce store that didn't require any money. So everything was free. You can come in and order to your heart's desire, because they came to us wanting and needing inventory management. So we delivered inventory management and subscriptions, as well as e-commerce for them. So they started then just having people sign up, because all the non-reusable products, you could set a subscription you wanted to, X amount of time. So I think we decommissioned it earlier this year, I think, because they no longer needed that service due to, I think it was an internal regime change when new councillors came in and everything got changed. But I think now it's more commonplace to have it in all the public buildings. So that was another one of our Odoo projects. So as you can, we spent a lot of time trying to learn Odoo, because Odoo is very popular in developing nations and in Northern Europe. So it is mainly because the community version is absolutely free. You can right now download, run your machine, and have a full ERP that would otherwise cost you hundreds a month. And if you're a small company with 10 users, you can run that, as opposed to having, I think, Odoo is something like £30 per user per month. So 200-300 a month versus zero. That's when it pays to start learning how to do it on the community version. But I think we reached the end of the Odoo rope, though, about 8 months ago, but we couldn't optimize the cost anymore. I think they threw every trick of the book and just could not get that. But that's where we're still keeping Odoo at the moment, for the community council sites that will allow us to effectively just have one instance and host a lot of websites. Because at this point, just volume and usage would change the price, but don't think the community councils are going to get swamped with thousands of users a day. Yeah. Any more? Don't please. Odoo will get me into rabbit holes for days. So it's it was quite a learning curve to get there. Anybody else with any questions?
So what's the next plan for the platform team?
That's where we're doing the CDK. We're building the CDK to build the backend to the web to apps at the moment, to run them on AWS. So effectively, the first stage will be to get it up and running for the volunteer app, and the second stage is to adapt it within, basically, because we use Jira in the STA to manage all our projects. We want to get the integration going within we want to get it integrated into Jira. So effectively, all you need to is press one of the buttons on Jira, and that will create a backend environment for a new project. So everything from the website URL, the security certificates, the databases, the lambdas, everything. So then you just need to build a front end on top of that. So effectively taking 50% out of the work in there. And it will allow for some customization, but it will get it. It is, we're trying to tread this fine line between full customization and something that is optimized for us to maintain, if that makes sense.
Yep.
That makes sense to everybody?
Just
And
a comment,
guys,
Mike.
it's a small statement, but a huge enabler for us, basically. So one of the complexities with volunteers is people being able to come in and do small bits of work and contribute effectively. So what the team are building is that ability for somebody to drop in, pick up a few tickets, and not either disappear and halt the development or deployment process. It also facilitates testing and release and all these other good things. So it kind of starts the journey towards being able to have components, do a little bit more of a shop based, right? We need this, and that. And there's a huge amount of work here to build up information, bits and pieces, and seeing how they deploy for the various teams. It's a shame that Bradley and Carboni isn't here, because there was a lovely moment of acknowledging how well structured that was between Bradley is, I don't know exactly what his job description is, but he works with an AWS, so he knows their infrastructure, and he's used to people suggesting ways and means of gluing stuff together, and they don't always work, or they don't always work as intended. Sorry.
Yeah, part of what he does, he comes in and he reviews accounts to see if they can optimize it with the AWS services. So that's where we're taking that knowledge within and making an optimized account from the get-go.
Yeah, he always finds
Alistair,
better
you were going
ways
to say
do
something then,
things.
sorry.
Sorry, you got cut out.
Mm.
Alistair, you wanted to say something?
Just a comment, really, because I haven't spoken to you for quite a while, and when I did speak to you, must have been about a year ago, you were deep into Odoo, and then Odoo seemed to be everything that was going to be the future. So it's really interesting to see how your thoughts have developed and changed. You get as a volunteer, you come and you see what's going on, you get one snapshot, then you kind of lose touch with how the core team has taken things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that we've changed our opinion in Odoo, but we know a lot more than we did back then. So
yeah, I mean, I downloaded it, I played with it. I thought, okay, this is what the STA is going to do. I better learn something about it, but it seemed awfully hard.
That's a conclusion we got, in that there's not that many resources in the UK. I think since I've been in the STA, we got one volunteer with Odoo experience. And even though he worked for a company that did Odoo development, he only had experience in one aspect of Odoo. So it just highlighted how massive that task is. And then when you compound that with the community version, doesn't allow for migrations. So you have to do the migration yourself. And in order to do the migration tool, you need to know how Odoo is engineered. And it led us to such a rabbit hole where right now it was a combination of that rabbit hole and the rabbit hole that is extremely expensive to run. At the moment, it's only economically viable as a multi-tenanted solution. And even the multi-tenanted versions of Odoo, Odoo is multi-tenanted, if you will, as in that it allows for parent-child relationships in companies. However, it is not meant to be run with individual companies. So there's some parts where the databases are shared between all instances. So we had to, at the end, create the divisions there to keep the data from all the community councils separate from each other. Even though it's all publicly accessible data, there's no personal info stored, there's no GDPR complications there, luckily. It is just so that they don't have to find their own bulletin from when they upload the bulletins, because it's all meant to be publicly accessible anyway. So it is part of the journey and the discovery on this could work. This seems like it's a great idea. We kind of can do it. It's like, wait, this is starting to become more of a challenge than I think at the end, that's the cost and the fact that it has a learning curve similar to the Matterhorn, as I think all of us that have touched Odoo can attest to. But having said that, if you all want to have a good laugh, we've moved the support site to Odoo, because Odoo now the online Odoo hosted solution is available for free forever, unlimited users, as long as you use only one module.
Forever.
So,
But I think also, Alistair, a big part of the Odoo exploration is, you know, during the pandemic, people had PPE and all these things that needed to be distributed, and it was overnight, so they didn't have the systems in place to do that kind of thing. Tampon Taxi was a reaction, you know, a response to legislation that, you know, very quickly the Scottish government said, here, we've got lots of stuff and now you need to distribute it. You know, and I think it just happened that there was another startup that spun up at a similar time, sort of thing. So, you know, supporting the ecosystem, we needed to find gaps, and, you know, the idea isn't to put tech companies out of business. You know, as things have settled, economic challenges are different. Charities just aren't asking for that kind of inventory management side of things, and there isn't that much amalgamation of charities to say, right, if we build this once, we can do the community council solution for multiple charities, for example. And actually,
I
you know,
think
things
Jonah
like
just
yeah.
Brought up a very interesting point, which one of the things that came throughout all this journey was we did a site for donate to Ukraine. So we did a site in collaboration with NatWest, right? Not RBS anymore. I get confused. My card still says RBS. Anyway, so we collaborated with RBS and a local charity to help send relief goods to Ukraine. This is the beginning of the war. And they lent us a few developers they had from their contractor that had some familiarity with Odoo. We had a website up and going within 24 hours. It was something very, very quick, fully functional website. 24 hours and we did. And the reason we went with Odoo is because the original call was for inventory management. And this is where it highlighted a disconnect. You can have the world's best software, but if you don't have the knowledge and know-how to use it in an operational sense, it won't help you. So we've had a few charities, including them as well as others after, that come and ask us for inventory management software. And when we ask, the first question to ask is, when have you done your last full stock take? We don't have time for that. You can't implement anything if they don't count their stock. If they don't know how to run a warehouse, we can have the world's best software, but unless they have that skill there. So we can give them tools to do their job, but we can't teach them to do their job, if that makes sense. So tech can fix you only so much, but afterwards, I mean, you know, Odoo has a great CRM.
You mean
But
it
if you
needs good people like our volunteers, Michael? That's what you're saying.
Yes. Who wants to go teach warehouse management?
I think
No,
Chris
but
put
that
his hand
is, yeah. I mean, as I said, it's when we can develop the best solutions, but if the charity isn't enabled to take it on, it doesn't really help anybody. And that goes to skills, that goes to cost. If we build something amazing that costs 200, 300 pounds a day to run, nobody's going to run it. That's where, again, I keep going back to cost, because it is as vital for us as it is for a charity to have something that as lean and mean as it can be. And that's why we tend to operate more with kind of a startup mentality than an established company mentality. But as I said, it's the strength of this team. It is all the volunteers. And it is, everybody brings their own skill set. And it's very fun to see. It's, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. And, you know, then they come and start, and it's amazing how much they really do know. I mean, because we have David was like, oh no, I'm just brand new. Okay, yeah, you ask him any API integration questions, that's your man. You know, Vanessa, oh, I don't know, yeah, fill in DynamoDB tables. There we go. He's good friends with Dynamo. to get all.
I wish.
places. I wish, yeah, I wish they
I'm
get
starting to
creative.
have
That's-
nightmares with Dynamo.
Let's see how far we've gone with Dynamo. And now we have systems writing onto the Dynamo. So it is a great place to learn, great place to see the whole picture. Because it's not just I'm gonna do task 1, 2, and 3. Is we're doing task 1 and 2 because of X, Y, and Z.
But also come with ideas as well, Michael, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
you know, we've had people like Chris McKellen here, has done a number of projects, seen a number of charities. So, you know, there's good insights from doing that time in the sector. Because you do get a sense of what level of tech they're used to. And it's not to be underestimated. You know, I'll never forget, Michael and I were in at NatWest, and a business team literally fell off the chair when the charity said they didn't have a 5-year plan. They were all horrified and kind of doing the kind of, God, that's terrible, you should totally have it. And then the conversation moved on to how do you get money? And they're like, well, we've got money until the end of the year and then we don't know what's happening next. And the look of horror in the room, we're like, what? You don't know if you've got money next year? So you might not have a job. So you might not have all these things. And it's just, it's a landscape most people aren't used to. You know, most people won't go contracting because it feels scary that you might have a 6-month role. Effectively, working in a charity is like being on an endless contract with a 1-month notice. So I don't know how people spend a lifetime in the industry because it's not easy.
Yeah.
Does anybody with their camera, you can ask questions via the chat if you want, guys, as well, if you're not comfortable kind of turning your camera on or asking any questions. Equally, if you're off having your dinner, that's fine too. Are we going to persuade you back onto a project, Chris?
Not at the moment. I am benching myself because every time I go aye, something comes up, and then I've committed and
That's
I've
very true, actually.
committed. But right now,
Well, do you know what sounds just about right? How about a team that's very flexible and, you know, no hard commitments? See?
Small tasks.
You never know, you might end up with a Shopify site by the time you finish.
We need commission for all these sites, Michael.
I think he's getting it. He just needs us to go to him when we need help. Sure.
No, but that was, I mean, that goes into, even though with all the kidding around, you know, when the question came, what's a good e-commerce site? That's where it was. And that's why also with AWS, it is giving us the right tool for the job for what we're doing. And it does, in case you're asking why AWS and not Azure, it seems to be that AWS has a lot more free resources for people to learn. And that's why I think 99% of all the volunteers we have with cloud background come from AWS. It's a small barrier to entry. Azure's in some commercial instances, but at least from what comes across here with us, we do have a lot of AWS. And that's hence why we're using it for all the wonderful things. And it has, I mean, well, this isn't strictly a platform thing. There was a project with PwC and Seascape, not Soundscape, Seascape. It was Seascape, right? Yeah. So I get the scapes confused. And the originally they thought they might want an app for volunteers to check in and check out when they come and visit. It's a charity for the blind, so they have volunteers that come in and visit people that need assistance. Now, they wanted a way to monitor if the volunteer was showing up, if they're doing this. The first time was, let's do an app. We had the chat with the team from PwC, that they're big fans of AWS. And we found that they're like, no, well, you know that you can use the call center feature in AWS and they can just call in, type in a code, and it goes into your Outlook. It integrates to Microsoft. It'll show up on the shared calendar there with a client, there with a charity. So something that would have been months and months of development. And hey, look, there's a ready-made solution. We can spin it up. And I'm thinking it was spun up within minutes, and then just the rest of the work was configuration, making it work for them. So it is, the more you know, the more you find that there's solutions for a lot of the problems that you think that you don't know that exist.
I used it for the map as well. I've never used AWS before, but it's nice to get a bit of experience with it while I was doing the map. Yeah.
Yeah. I use
Sure.
the keyword, which is Lambda. It's always, everything needs to go on the Lambda. That's what I've learned so far in this team. I think we're briefly thoughting about renaming it to Team Lambda and getting t-shirts. So
I'm still waiting for my t-shirt. From the first day I joined the team, I hear about these t-shirts.
You can only get them from Michael's site. Therein lies the commission.
and I don't think I did
Last
set up
week
where
it
we,
was cups.
oh yeah, cups, t-shirts. Oh, wait till you see the beanbags. Those are fun.
Especially with a big logo on them. They look quite funny.
They're very expensive. Not on your
So-
website, thing like in general.
In case you're wondering what craziness we're talking about, was effectively drop shipping, which is you can get services that you can link to your online store, and you only pay for when it's sold. So they will take care of everything after the payment comes through. And in a lot of them, you can customize. You can create a full line of clothing, beanbags, backpacks, etc. And there's effectively only out of pocket with your subscription fee on whatever e-commerce platform you're using. But yeah. Any other questions?
I'll look at it during the summer. Not yet.
Any other
You wanna say
questions
something?
from anybody? I've got a game of drafts going on in the background, so there's probably a bit of heckling.
Hey, Tolu.
Hi, good evening. Apologies, I'm in another meeting, that's why my video is not on. So, hi everyone. This is my first time, and I'm sort of blind and deaf because everything just sounds like a lot of Greek. So, I think my question would be, so as a volunteer, what are your expectations, or what would you have me do that would help me maybe give some sort of clarity on what it is? Yeah.
So clarity on what the project is that we're doing right now, or on we do overall.
Yeah, I think also based on what you said, so I've heard, there's not just one project, so there are a series of projects that come per time, and that's given. But what are your expectations of me as a volunteer? What would you have me do? That's my question.
I think the expectations are like with every other project is honesty. Tell us, when you can make it, what you can do, what you can and cannot do, and be willing to learn. It is the thing is, it's the drive to learn everything must come from within, and we will enable that as much as we can. We will show you, give you resources, but that first step needs to be taken by yourself.
Okay. This is my own first step, so I guess we'll see how it goes from there.
That's fine. If you want to learn more, it goes for anybody. Message me on Slack, and we can arrange something, or a one-on-one if you want.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Francis,
Hi everyone, good evening.
good
Can you
evening.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm not putting on my camera right now because I'm in between making dinner and jumping on the call at the same time. So excuse me, because I was working the entire day at home. And good evening, everyone, again. And nice to meet everyone. I think I met Joe and Johanna. And Joe, sorry I couldn't make the orientation today because for some reason your email landed in my junk folder, surprisingly. But I got the Zoom link off the Slack channel. So I mean, because this is my first time here, so I didn't know what to expect because I missed the orientation. So I don't know if there was a flow of what was going on. But I'm really interested in everything I've been hearing so far because I think I'll just talk about my journey a little bit in terms of like how I got to learning AWS. I'm really excited that everyone is talking about AWS here. I think it aligns with a lot of things that I'm doing right now. I'm not an expert yet. I'm still a mediocre self-learning person about this. So, and I think one of the most important thing about my journey about joining AWS is me approaching it from a hobby perspective. And that really got me very curious in terms of like unlocking a part of curiosity in terms of creativity and how things go from A to B and why it's being done. And I think that's very, very important when you start transitioning into a new environment, for instance, like AWS and Azure and all that. So my objective of joining this call and probably this the STA is to upskill myself, because I think I might be a bit of like self-critic to myself, like, do I know enough? What is the next step? Because there's a lot of like ambiguity to learning new stuff. And I think the best way you can learn is learning from people already in the industry that can show you the ropes to play around and build impactful things, because that's the most important thing on my journey, which I really, really love doing in my free time, especially like because my current job gives me a lot of like flexibility in terms of like working from home most of the time, and I currently work in compliance. And I believe if you work in compliance, you know how repetitive and boring that might be, So, and I think that's why I'm just like, doing this in my free time and hoping I could learn from you guys. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and that says, you're welcome to come, and this is kind of the dynamic we have is where we will go and troubleshoot the project, the big problems in the meeting. And then throughout the week, if there might be group meetings where the members get together to fix something or sort something out. In the past, we've had trainings organized by Brad from AWS to do specific skills. So there'll be he'll set up some training environments and some materials and get everybody to work on it. And I think the last one's months ago, but they're very informative, and I think nothing but good feedback from that. Yeah.
That sounds
So
good.
is it?
So we had a big
Sorry.
chat with Francis at Digit Expo West, Michael. So I think we can definitely get Francis tinkering about with the toys and having a go.
Music to my ears. Anybody else have any questions?
Cool. Well, now you know Michael, you know the face, you know the name. You're all welcome to reach out anytime. Oh, there's a message. There's a message and note or question, or can I get a link of the organization Slack channel? Cool. Yeah.
Message me and I'll send you an invite, because I think we locked it. Yeah. Because the other thing we were also doing is I think at the moment, because of time limitations, we're doing onboarding once a month instead of a rolling every month onboarding, every meeting onboarding. So I will schedule the next onboarding to anybody that's interested. We can do it possibly next week, actually. same time. So ping me a message on Slack. I'm the original Michael. Just add Michael on Slack.
Original Michael.
should
That
change
is
it to that.
exactly who you are, the original Michael.
Oddly enough, first Michael on Slack to just have Michael.
Brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank
Nice
you all
to
for
see
coming.
lots of new faces.
Thank you, and see you next week.
You all.
Bye.
Bye.